Welcome back to You Live. It's just gone about 6:30 on a Monday evening, and we've been talking all things sports. Now it's time to talk all things books with Lily Richards from Unity Books. How are you doing this week, Lily?
Good.
Good. Positivity. Fantastic. Straight off the bat. It's going to be a great interview.
You always say that. I don't think I sound that sprightly when I listen to it again.
No.
Are you mocking?
I'm trying, yeah, of course. Well spotted. Shall we get into it?
Cool. So, not just all things books, but all things communism.
Love communism.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the idea.
Great idea.
In practice, a little bit harder to make work, but the idea that everyone's the same and equal...
I never understood why it didn't work, and then you look at how they had tried to implement it, and that was the problem. Well, I still think there's ideas in communism that could work.
I think if you had a desert island and like a nice little community of people, communism would be the best way to go. World full of 6 billion people is going to be a bit harder to make it fly. Agreed.
It's really hard though, because when you're deserted on an island, the first thing you have to decide is who's going to make decisions, and communism is super tricky for that because everyone's supposed to be equal. So you're like, oh, how do you? I mean, I can see where they hit a few bumps.
Where they run into trouble.
Yeah. But anyway, before they completely destroyed themselves, they had an amazing, they had an amazing civilization, basically, that sprung up out of their competition, their competitive spirit with America.
Yeah.
And this guy, this French photographer, how would you say that?
Frederic Chaubin?
Nice.
Thank you.
So, he has gone to the Soviet over a number of years, from 2003 up until recently.
Oh, this is very recent.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's been over a huge project that he's worked on, and he's gone around and he's found these like abandoned building sites. Some of them are abandoned, some of them are still occupied, but they're from the Soviet era, and they come from post-Stalin, really towards the end when the Iron Curtain was raised and the whole thing kind of collapsed. So I'll show you the cover because it's pretty special, and I have to hold it quite far back because it's a giant book.
It looks like a movie set.
It does, doesn't it? Beautiful. Now that's a sanatorium up here, so that's where they went on holiday. They had sanctioned holidays, and CCCP, which is obviously the title, is kind of a joke because in Cyrillic, in Russian, CCCP is the abbreviation for USSR.
Oh, really?
But I'm sure you can do a joke.
Yeah.
So it stands for, in this instance, Cosmic Communist Constructions Photographed. And they are
Clever from Frederic.
so strange, the buildings. And they're influenced. You learn a lot about, there's a great essay in the beginning, you learn a lot about Russia and what they did and where they come from and how they had the buildings they did. Because of communism, basically any building that was built was mandated by the government and built and devised by okayed people from the government, you know? So it was all very much...
of a style.
Yeah, definitely, and very minimalist and hard. But towards the end of things, they got a bit crazy. And they were also... hooray for communism.
Stalin for the win, baby.
So easily, put off track.
Yeah.
Anyway, they're influenced obviously by the States and their weird competitive relationship with them. And one of the things that was constantly going on was the space race.
Of course.
So they wanted to get there first. And because communism was a great idea, as we've covered, but kind of terrible in reality, capitalism, also shocking idea.
Good save.
Thanks. But it seemed to be better at the beginning, so people were happier.
Yeah.
So basically Russia was like, oh, current time's terrible, but if we look to the sky, that's where we can really make our mark.
Totally.
Yeah. So a lot of the buildings around Russia at that time just basically looked like spaceships.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Can I see some pictures?
Come to ground.
I haven't seen any of the pictures yet.
Spaceship buildings, spaceship buildings,
spaceship
buildings.
Oh, that is so rare.
And also because can you... Oh, hold on.
Can you
see that?
I get an idea of that. That is ridiculous.
Now that is the Ministry... That's the Ministry of Highways.
Whoa!
Yeah. Isn't that great? Because Russia had a ministry for everything.
Yeah.
They also had a large number of circuses. Check out this.
Is that a circus?
This is a circus.
Look at that
It's like an alien spaceship circus.
And they're huge. You have no idea of the scope of these buildings, but the photographs do an amazing job.
Are these buildings these days generally abandoned, or are they still using them?
So the circus thing is a really interesting story. Basically, because everything was to do with economy and how quickly you could, how cheaply you could do things and spread it around people. Just one more picture here.
Wow.
Instead of feeding a whole lot of elephants, they decided just to have a small number that they would have as part of a travelling circus that they sent around Russia.
To the buildings, to the...
Well, yeah, so instead of having a number of circuses, they just built a whole lot of circus buildings. So like every town has those crazy circuses that they would...
And once a month, the Russian circus will turn up and...
Yeah.
Wow.
And they've also got... So I was mentioning before, the cover is the sanatorium, so they had these... Because you weren't allowed to leave... tricky subject.
Another failing point of the...
Yeah, knowledge leave, in case you saw something better and came back and talked about it. Or were corrupted, as is probably the case. They had like government-enforced holidays. So they have these really amazing...
Ain't no fun like it was, ain't no party like a government party.
Beaches, they're on beaches in like cedar forests, and they had, so that everyone could afford to go and have a holiday.
Okay, we're going to go to a song, but we're just going to come back and look at more.
It's me,
I got caught out on the wide shot doing it last week.
Wrap it up.
We're going to go to a song by LMFAO, and when we come back, we're just going to talk more about sweet communist spaceship buildings. And the whole big camera as well, to tie it into hipsters. Come back. And music meets communism, photography, and buildings.
That's
awesome.
A sweet connection.
Thank you, I tried.
Yeah. So basically we're just talking about the same thing, but doing more of it. Same thing, but
because the
more.
pictures are so sweet.
Yeah, we've just been going through it the whole time that you've been watching what is it?
LMFAO.
LMFAO. We've been looking at these, and there's a couple more really awesome examples. So there's the Dostoevsky Theatre. We're talking about how they are atheist, communism, atheist, God is competition. This is a cool example of that because that's a feature of the Dostoevsky Theatre that has absolutely no purpose whatsoever.
No, that doesn't sound very communist to me.
Well, it does, because you're going to have a monument to nothing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's kind of...
An ode to... How?
Well, the whole atheist thing, how there was sort of no God. You
Yeah.
could have these giant... I know that does sound a little bit like, because they're very functional.
Yes.
But this was one of the things that kind of snuck out towards the end when things were obviously crumbling a bit in the
On the way out.
Yeah. And this is where delinquents went, or were sent. And it started its life, this one here.
It's like a lighthouse or something, huh?
It does. It started
On a
its
sad
life
beach.
as a drawing, as a possible moon landing base. But because they never got there. And also, those familiar with Russian literature might recognise the legs. It looks like it's on legs. And a big feature, actually, of children's literature is, I always forget her name, it's like Babanushka, something like that, is this evil witch.
Baba Ganoush.
Baba Ganoush.
Isn't that a type of food?
It's an eggplant spread. So similar, but not the same. Her houses and stuff are always on chicken legs.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you can tell if she's a witch because her house is on chicken legs.
Wow, I'm learning so much in this
segment.
feature.
It's a good tip.
Yes.
And that is all I have to say.
Come on, are there any more favourites that we just can quickly...
Yeah, well, let's do,
every
should we
photo
do
in
the
this book.
hideous...
CCCP.
Do you want to see the ugliest piece of art, but which is actually a really effective visual metaphor for rhythm, which is literally what it's called, a visual. They have something called a visual metaphor for rhythm. There you
It's
go.
going to be tough.
Wow. But it works.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that looks like rhythm.
Totally.
Isn't that a strange sentence?
Oh, it does look like rhythm.
It looks like
The
rhythm,
nailed
guys.
rhythm.
Yeah,
Oh,
so there was
man.
a lot of ministries and a lot of kind of attention to detail,
Yeah.
and there was, towards the end as well, when it was less Stalin-esque and you could kind of have more of an avant-garde feel for things and you could explore, well then they got a little bit more crafty and they were quite, they had all these wonderful ideas and they put them in these extraordinary buildings that really spoke to the idea that it was housing.
Awesome.
So there's a lot of thought, not at all like Auckland City.
Well, I just want to move to Russia now. I just want to go and look at these weird buildings and hang out with Russians. Well, thank you for that.
Anytime. I'm glad I'm successful. If that's the one thing I can do for you, Tim.
Yeah.
Can I just have another look at the
Change
cover
my
of that
scope.
book before we go as well? There we go. CCP, Cosmic Communist Constructions Photographed.
It's even the title works as like a bit of a play on the constructive nature of everything they did. Sorry, the practical nature of everything they do.
Why?
Because it's just facts, bang, bang, bang. No sort of sense of art and beauty in the words.
But cosmic,
Yeah, that's true.
that's not a word that we
Space.
bandy about in capitalism.
No.
That's the other thing that's the key difference here is that they don't do, not everything is done for money. So if you want to learn about a society that did stuff for reasons other than making a buck,
You can do that?
look into Russia.
How about that?
Apparently.
Okay, all right.
We forget.
And you can head to Unity Books in Auckland and in Wellington if you want to pick up this book as well. Thank you very much for coming in, Lily.
Pleasure.
Right, now we're going to a bit of Gautier.
Yes, indeed.
Somebody that I used to know, featuring Kimber, currently #1 on the New Zealand charts. Good work, New Zealand.